experience than she said. It's more like 35 to 40 years. I know I look very young, but.
I will let you know when you have 5 minutes.
Yeah.
There is a pointing.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now that I thought I had 45 minutes. Now I'm told it was 35 minutes, so I'm going to try and do some auctioneer kind of talking, you know, really, really fast, and good luck with that, because I don't understand your accent, and you probably don't understand mine. Right off the bat, I have to say thank you and to the conference committee for having me here, and thank you, Karen O'Reilly, for taking all those emails, and I don't know how you did it. I do want to make a shout. Are there residential provider? You say carer, we say provider. It means the same thing. Are there any? Who are the carers in there? Here. Okay. I just have to make this comment that there is no. And I do.
This one under here.
Oh. Thank you for that. For those, I ran a group home for Prader-Willi syndrome, and I ran group homes for years. That's what I did. That was my thing. And there is no one model. There is no one model, and I don't want anyone to leave this conference thinking that we should be seeking one, because that's very dangerous. Those of us who are very committed to working with folks with disabilities in residential care, it's not an either-or for Prader-Willi. It's not either it's going to be restrictive or person-centered. We do both. That's our job, is to do both. So I just felt like I needed to make a shout out to you providers out there, carers who are busting your butt. You're here to learn, and you're going to bring that back to your group homes. And parents, don't think there is one way. It depends on who you are, where you are, your culture. Work together with the providers to do right by your children. And that's all I have to say about that. So, first of all, this wouldn't be a Prader-Willi conference if we didn't have a session on behavior, right? I mean, it's like the main thing. And you're all waiting for me to tell you what to do under each and every individual circumstance that you may encounter. And I have had a lot of experience, however. Some of your kids are just way beyond my ability. But I will tell you this. One of the things I run into a lot with school personnel and new providers, perhaps, is they don't get Prader-Willi syndrome. And I don't know how else to put it. You know exactly what I'm talking about. It's really hard to get it unless you live it. And they haven't. So I actually fight with people, especially behavior specialists. I don't know if you're out there, but and I'm trained as a behavior specialist, but it's different. They're different. So it might be helpful if you explain to them that this is not these aren't kids who have a behavior problem. These are kids who have Prader-Willi syndrome, and part of that includes certain behaviors. It's sort of hardwired. So to begin with, in the DSM, it's a psychiatric disorder. But the behaviors are a result of a direct medical condition. It's not learned behavior. And of course, what we know is we have to look at the stress and anxiety so they don't get worse. So when you have this problem, show them these slides of the hypothalamus so that they can get an idea that, see, it's not them. They're not bad kids. They were born this way. Look at what the hypothalamus affects. If that's not a description of Prader-Willi syndrome, what is? So just to get them off that, he can control it. We just have to have the right reward or punishment or some other god-awful thing. You know this, you've seen this before. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. If I stress anything when I do training, to me, the synonym for Prader-Willi syndrome is anxiety. It's just what it is. And if we understand that, And if the people who serve them understand that, then you understand. I mean, there's a bunch of you out there who have anxiety disorders, and don't pretend you don't, because I know you do. And when you're anxious, you look for a way to manage it. You feel out of control. Can you imagine feeling that way all day long, every day? Oh my God. They don't always show how anxious they are. We know it because we see the little twitch or the fingers moving or whatever, but other people don't always see it. And, by the way, there's an established correlation between anxiety and aggression. So, all the stickers in the world aren't going to help when the kid's aggressive if we're not dealing with the source of the anxiety. And that's really, really important. Those are some of the food, aside from the food-related behaviors, the stealing, the running away to get it, and aside from the skin picking, and some of it is really severe, all the rest on that list is about anxiety. These all fall from anxiety. We're going to talk about some of them in a more concrete way. So, first of all, families and providers, how stress-free is your environment in terms of food security? Melanie addressed that. And are there providers and schools, are there people around who understand and how consistent, not rigid, are your rules? A biggie is realistic expectations. These guys deceive us so much. They are so smart in so many ways, and then something very simple is asked, and they look at you like, what are you talking about? What they appear, their social skills, their social verbal skills are often very, very good. But that doesn't mean they're getting everything. So realistic it's a big problem in schools where teachers think, oh, he can do that, he told me he could do that, and he talks like he can do that. And is your environment set up so that there's built-in support for change and transitions? Because that's a real problem. So my new thing nowadays is to talk about yes environments, creating yes environments. And what that means is it's a place where people are free from the anxiety that plagues them all day. They know they're going to eat, they know when they're going to eat, they know who's going to be around. It's really tough in group homes with shift changes and all of that. But there's structure, routine, food security. Now when that happens, what you have is someone who can do something else besides obsess about food. When I opened my group home for Prader-Willi syndrome, what I envisioned was a place where they'd get off their bus or whatever, they'd walk in the door of the house and they'd go, it's out of their hands. I don't have to worry about food. I know who's going to work today. I know what time dinner is. It's like an alcoholic going into rehab and they say, it's out of my hands. That frees up a whole bunch of energy to talk, to play Uno, to do any number of things that's going to get them a positive response. So that should be our goal, particularly in our group homes. Part of having a yes environment, and this is really hard to do, it looks simple but it's not, is starting any response to anything with a yes. So, can we go to the playground? No, you've got 5 other things you need to do. Can we go to the playground? And your answer is, yes, what a great idea. Why don't we hurry up and finish this other stuff so we can go? If you say, no, honey, we have to wait, they don't hear that we have to wait for a little while. Even though you're about to say, and we're going, they forget it. They're gone. It's like a little guy, 3-year-old. No, you say that, they're lost, and you know what happens after that. The voice goes up. So the next series of slides has to do with, I try to categorize some management strategies. One of my favorites is management by schedule. I'm trained to do behavior plans and all that stuff, but this is so much easier. There's no stickers, no rewards you have to worry about, and besides, I'll tell you the truth, in a residential program, these very sophisticated behavior plans that require all kinds of data, it ain't happening. It can happen. They're busy working with the folks. By the way, you should have a handout that has guidelines for behavior programs in your packet or something. So the schedule thing is least preferred before more preferred. So the morning routine consists of you've got to get up, brush your teeth, blah, 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 then breakfast. You come home, you do your homework, put your bag away, then snack. Before dinner, you do your walk, you do your shower, then it's dinner. Perfectly, there's no program there. It doesn't have to be written by a psychologist. It's just the natural way of your routine. And that gives the person some of that, okay, I just got to get through this to get to that I really want to do. It just makes sense. Another thing that I find is a lot of behavior programs in particular, but even parents, we often say, don't forget, if you do your laundry, then you can go out. Or if you finish that worksheet, then you can go to the playground. Try and say when you finish the worksheet or when you finish the laundry. When you say if, it's a threat, because the other side of that is, and if you don't, right, you got a punishment coming. So when assumes, one, they have more control over what's going to happen, takes the onus off you, you're not the bad guy, and it puts it in, oh, this is just what's happening. Parents, you already know this. When you anticipate the blow up, that's when your affect, and same with teachers and group home folks, your affect needs to be, oh wow, could you help me with this? And you try and distract, but you do it with this really positive affect. And we also, teachers, I say this a lot to them, try and invite them to do things and not demand they do it. Instead of, go over there and finish your worksheet. It's like, what do you think comes next? What's on the schedule next? The other thing that drives me nuts in schools, I see this a lot, but also group homes, is when the kid is sitting there and you got the para like this helping, and it's such an unequal situation, so I'm always looking for the teacher who gets down and equalizes the situation. I had a gal once, she was only in 2nd grade, really smart gal, and I was observing her, and she went and sat down at her table and she was doing her work, and the para really was a well-meaning person. It has nothing, we say parent, it equals 8, it's the same thing. So the para's trying to be helpful, and the girl says, could you just move away? And the para's like, yeah, but first let's finish this, and you need my help with this. And the girl's like, no, I'm good. Please move away. And the para was so afraid that she'd do her work wrong and the para would be in trouble or whatever, she just stayed. And finally the girl just smacked her. And I wanted to clap. I wanted to say, I hope you learned your lesson. I mean, she said it. What else do you want from this kid? She gave you a chance to escape. But if the kid blows, I mean, that's when our affect gets really, and so hard. You have to be real flat affect. You're not angry, you're not sad. Your tone of voice is very even. Give people space, or else you create that fight or flight thing. And that really happens, like with that little girl. And you have to act like time is not meaningful in this situation, even though you're chomping at the bit to get the hell out of here because you have to go pick up your other kid or something. But if you act anxious, they'll just push you further and you'll never get to pick that other kid. Choices, you've heard this before, try and keep it to 2 or 3 tops. Again, the idea that the person gets to have some control. If you can do things like, you can take your shower now or in 5 minutes. You decide. Boy, that's a win-win, because all you want is the damn shower to be taken. And And with food, we often do this with schools. If they take food from someone else, well, you can eat that now, and I'll just call your mom and she'll adjust your evening menu, or you can have whatever you usually plan to have tonight. Very often they'll go, oh, this ain't worth it, because they like bigger over smaller, regardless of what it is. You can put your toys away first or make your bed first. You decide. The focus is on that. And that's, why is this not, oh, because I'm pushing the wrong button. Predicting and planning. You parents know this so well, but I want to emphasize something. When we talk about how Prader-Willi folks don't like change and transitions, that's not the whole story in my experience. It's not just the change or just the transition. It's often about how it affects food. And we don't always think about that. So a scenario might be like this. It's Friday, the kid goes into school, they're having a field day. They're going to the zoo. So everybody's all excited, it's Friday morning to go to the zoo, and the teacher goes, bummer, it's raining, not a good zoo day. We're gonna reschedule though, I promise. And everybody in the class is like, oh man, oh what a bummer, and they're sad about it, and then they'll say, well, when are we gonna do it? And pretty normal response. The kid with Prader-Willi syndrome, and this is not IQ related. Having a high IQ is not protective in any of these situations. The kid with Prader-Willi syndrome goes, but you said, and I have the permission slip from my mom. But once the word mom comes out, you're done for. Because mom rules. Mom signed the permission slip, and I have $1 because they're going to get a frozen yogurt. And I brought my bag lunch, and you're like, oh, I know, honey, because this is a smart kid. I know, honey. I'm sorry, but you see the rain, how we don't usually walk around in the rain all day. But you said, right? And you're thinking, oh my God, what's wrong with this kid? Well, what's wrong is, you said. Also, what you didn't deal with is the food. He knew he was going to the zoo. He knew you were having your picnic at 12. He knew he was going to get a treat, a frozen yogurt. And now what? Now what's going to happen? So plan B, which should always be written on the calendar, would be, and you say this right away, no zoo, but, and you can point, it's very good to use fewer words. You point to the calendar that you've already talked about that says, if whatever, and never say exactly what the whatevers will be, because it'll be something that's not on the list and they'll call you on it. So we're gonna we'll play the movie We Bought the Zoo, whatever that movie is. That was so much fun, and we'll have a picnic right here. And I'm gonna run out and get some frozen yogurt. Now he can be sad about not going to the zoo because you took care of that. I've had staff people like, oh, he's gonna miss me so much, and I'm like, not for nothing, but those Tuesday night outings for coffee are really. So once you take care of that, then he can be sad and miss that person. You're laughing at me. Is anything resonating?
Yes.
Huh? You're living it, right, I hope. Long-term staff and parents, they know what's going to happen, usually before it happens. And there's always the food issue. There's the sense of unfairness, and I want to say something about that, or conflict with an obsession or compulsion. I had one girl who was filling out, she had some tests and had the bubbles you filled in. Well, she had to fill in every bubble because they were there to be filled in. So she got 100. And The perceived sense of unfairness, somebody mentioned this, the psychologist yesterday, a psychiatrist mentioned injustice. This is huge. If we hear anything, it's, that's not fair. I'm going to call my mother. Sound familiar?
Sounds like Donald Trump.
Yeah. That's not fair. I want it my way. So, for example, you're at school and you have you're a really good teacher and you have your schedule of line leader for the day. That's a big deal for little kids to be in charge of leading the line. And Monday is Mary and Tuesday is Joey, and Joey has Prader-Willi syndrome. Monday rolls around, Mary's sick, so the teacher bumps up, right, you see what's coming. Bumps up Joey thinking, that should work. He'll get it. Mary comes in the next day, and of course the teacher says, okay, you weren't here yesterday, so you're just flipping your turn with Joey, so you can do it today. And what does Joey say? That's not fair, you said. And there it is. So never ever mess with your schedules that way. Sometimes it's who sits in the front seat of the van. One of my group homes who didn't have a lot of hot water is like, who gets to shower first? Let me just keep going. These are just some things to be aware of. The OCD, even if it's not a diagnosed disability, they have OCD behaviors. We've heard all about that. You really have to plan for it. You really have to say, well, I know he's going to need to do this, so we better get up early. And I want to remind us that we all have this stuff. There are certain things you just gotta have a certain way. And if it isn't that way, you don't have a tantrum, exactly, but you're pretty upset and disturbed and distraught. So it's not that weird, and especially in group homes, I always try and warn people, talk to the parents, find out what his rituals were at home. Because if he's used to showering every night, and now he's going to shower in the morning or vice versa, that's huge. That's huge. Misunderstanding, I gotta mention that one. People with Prader-Willi, this is a common, and you don't even know it's happening until it happens. I don't think we realize how much they misunderstand what's being said. They have poor short-term memory to begin with. We gotta remember, oh, that's wrong. Forget that. So, I might say, hey, grab your laundry basket, go up from the laundry room, go upstairs and dump your hamper into it, and come back down in the laundry room. 20 minutes later, you go up to their room, and they're just la la la, and you got things to do. John, I just told you to do your laundry. What are you doing up here? And he was looking at you like, what's your problem? And he got that first step. He got the laundry basket. He made it upstairs, but the rest is gone. I have a daughter with ADHD. She's exactly the same way. It's very annoying to have to keep following up, checking in. But that's what you have to do. So too much information at once is definitely a problem. Now, how do I go backwards here? I have such a dry mouth. Anybody?
Yeah, I can fix it.
It's all that alcohol I had last night. No, I didn't. Okay. Management by practice. I'll just wanting a couple of examples. Restaurants, whether the kid's living at home or in a group home. Narrow down the number of restaurants you will ever go to while that kid's alive. Get their menu ahead of time. You sit down, thank you. Sir, here's the items you can choose from, and they pick them, and you remind them, 5 minutes? This will never be done in 5 minutes. So they have a choice of what they're going to be able to pick, and then you go to them and you remind them. And if you don't stick to the plan, we're leaving. Of course, you have to make sure you have someone with you to help you make that happen. But if you don't do that, he's going to go. He's going to order something like the French fries that he's not supposed to have, and he's in public, and we know what happens after that. I'm going to skip to, well, there's so many wonderful ideas here. What do you really, there's perseveration, I've got sit-down strikes coming up, need to finish. Sit-down strikes, let me do that one. It's a really popular strategy for people with Prader-Willi syndrome, especially when they're really heavy. They know when they plop down there, you're screwed. You can do nothing. You can't pick them up and move them. So what happens? We're all like, okay, well, if you get up now, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. So what I suggest, because they do learn how to do it, in the States they often do it at Walmart. That's our big super center place. And I hate Walmart for that reason. I don't think anybody with Prader-Willi syndrome should go to Walmart. Besides, they don't treat their employees well, so I like to boycott it, but that's something else. So the main thing you need to do is breathe, the mantra, this too shall pass. Don't start yelling or threatening, because then they just batten down the hatches. We talk too much, by the way. We get into people's faces, and we're like, and you need to do this or that, and if you do this or that, and they really want to hit you, is what's going on after. And sometimes they do. Less is more. Don't negotiate. Don't allow a lot of attention. Of course, that's hard to do in Walmart, but what you could say, if strangers are around, go like this. I want you to understand that my child has a very rare exotic disorder. And it causes him to fall to the floor. And we have to wait until it passes. And then people might nod and leave. The more we use growth hormone, things like that, the less disabled our kids look. And the more normal they look, the more you're going to get stared at. It's like the poor parents of kids with autism. I mean, it's terrible. I've got, what, 1 minute? Two. If you're with more than one person, this is good for group homes. Pick one person. The other thing I don't think we do enough of is acknowledge feelings. I see this a lot when I observe in schools when the kid is acting out. They go right into, well, now you have to go to the quiet room or whatever, instead of first saying, wow, you look really upset. I'd like to talk about that. So they get to hear you caring. And then you give them a choice. I love this. You can get up now, or and we can finish our shopping, or you can stay for 3 more minutes, and then we'll continue. You think about it, and then literally, if you can, if you have someone else watching, turn your back and move away, and then you come back and you go, so what's your decision? Because it's their decision. Very often they're like, oh, I guess I got to decide something now. And they'll usually get up and move on. I'm not going to talk about skin. You know what? I have a sign up thing here. I don't know where to go with this. Oh, let me go back. Oh, that's what I have this for. What do you want to do? Grandiosity, tantrums, skin picking. Tantrums.
What's grandiosity?
I'm going to have you sign up for, I'll send it to you. Basically with the tantrums, if they're starting to scream and stamp their feet, again, I see you're very upset and I'd like to talk to you, and basically follow the sit-down strike procedure. I know it can go on for hours. I know that. And it's painful because their voices get really high. And God forbid you're in an apartment building. I know that, but there's no way around it. Grandiosity is when the person makes up stories. Sometimes there's a grain of truth. I was at a group home once and the guy said, oh, and I have a wife and she lives in a group home in 3 states away, and I have a couple kids. And I had a choice. I could have said, oh, come on. That's not really true. Or I could say, oh, would you show me your room now? And I would always choose the latter, because you get into that with him, no, you don't have a wife and kids, that can go on for days. Right? All right. My time's up. So, I'm doing something on sexuality and next. I hope some of you can be here. I'm around for the day. I hope you can, I have a pad over there. You can sign up if you'd like to get a copy of the slides. I wish I had more time with you, and thank you so much for being such a great audience.
Thanks so much, Behaviour. It's fabulous. And Behaviour has very kindly offered to pass on her presentation. So if you would like that, please approach her yourself so that she can pass on, get your details. Okay, so I'll just analyze this. Okay, so our next presenter is very well known to us in Australia, Dr. Owen Naunt. He's a paediatric endocrinologist working in Royal North Shore Hospital in Sydney. And he's completed his doctorate at the University of Queensland all those years ago. And he's published research projects in Prader-Willi and peer-reviewed journals. So